So speaking of self-publishing, you have so many self-published releases. I think you're exclusively self-published, aren't you?
Yes.
Yeah. So do you have any tips for our listeners and our watchers? Because a lot of them are interested in self-publishing. Some of them maybe are even self-published already. Any tips for launching yourself as a self-published author or doing better as a self-published author?
Well, let's get specific. Does anyone have any specific questions? I'd be happy to share anything and everything that I've got, but I will give one tidbit that I would tell anyone who publishes, especially if it's your first time, and that is don't expect things to be perfect. Regardless of the backlash you might receive, it's not going to be perfect. I've had things professionally edited. Heck, I have bought books from the big publishers and found errors myself. They're not perfect either. But look at your work as success in motion. So don't be overly critical with yourself, and give yourself a list of things that you're going to do to make sure that you have done the best you know how. You need to ask yourself, what does finished to me look like? And when you have reached that point, you've defined it, and you reach that point, publish it. Put it out there. People will let you know. It's funny, in illustrating, as long as I have, sometimes I will take sketches and send them to clients. And it might be a really bad rough draft. And I've had even my own kids, some of them work with me and illustrate as well. I had one of my daughters say, well, what if they don't like it? I says, it doesn't matter. Sometimes we don't know what we do like until we see what we don't like. So send it to them, because all I'm doing is I'm sending it to them. Now I want your feedback. What do you like? What don't you like? Do I need to start over? Do I need to make? You never know till you put those things. It's the same thing with your book. That's why you have alpha readers and beta readers and friends and family. Though if it's friends and family, you need to find someone who can look you in the face and tell you that your baby is ugly. It's true. It's so true.
That is a very nice way to put it. And you are, of course, absolutely right. I would say make sure that you make use of alpha and beta readers. I would also say, obviously, I'm not a self-published author, but I brought things to a point where I would be happy to put them into the world. Read your own work aloud if you possibly can, or get the computer to read it aloud for you. This is something that Apple devices can now do. You will hear any glaring errors that you won't see. You will also hear if you use the same word twice in a sentence by accident that you won't see. These kinds of vetting techniques, because you listen differently to the way you read, can really help you make sure that it's at the level that you want it to be, whatever level that is.
I will add one thing to that. Take your book, even if you have to do it chapter by chapter, print it out. Print it out, then read it out loud. Then I would take and say that your method right there would be a perfect way to do it. Because when you read it out, you're going to catch things. But for some reason, when we see it on our screen or where we've been working, it's still your brain is filling in the gaps.
Yeah.
So you miss things. But if you have it in print, for some reason, I catch a lot more when I print it, on my printer, and then I go read it to my kids or read it to my wife.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And in terms of getting a text ready to be released, it's a great trick. I mean, you can have all the, you can have all the spell check software in the world, but it's not going to catch when you accidentally wrote specific rather than, specified or scoliosis or something, and you just typed the wrong word, or it's autocorrected it to the wrong word and you don't know why, but all of a sudden the wrong word is in there. You only catch that when you read it out loud, because your eyes, when you're scanning, know what is supposed to be there, so they will trick you.
Great advice. Totally agree.
Yeah, and in terms of things like publicity, marketing, that kind of side of it, because of course as a self-published author, that's something that you're responsible for as well, isn't it?
It is. Everything's on my shoulders, and I like it that way. Because I can't look to anyone else and blame anyone else. That does contribute to those days where you're feeling kind of, gosh, is anyone really, reading what I'm doing? But it all comes down to relationships. I tend to have a lot more people want to read my books after they've met me. But it's fun because there's momentum. You do consistent things all the time, but it's fun every once in a while to get an email from, I'll give you an example, like a librarian in Montana. I'm in Utah, and in Montana, saying how grateful they were that they got the books in the library. And I'm like, well, I didn't send books to the library, so somebody's buying the books in the library. And I had another one that was a few counties down that I did donate some to, and I had the librarian get a hold of me, and she says, all right, I haven't read your books, but the boys here are fighting over them and stealing them.
Wow.
And I thought, cool, they like them enough, they're ripping them off. I know that's a twisted view, but I'm thinking, yes, this is awesome. All right, I'll get you some more books, that kind of thing. So all these kinds of experiences, they all, get the book The Tipping Point. That's a good book for indie authors, to realize that all these little things they add and add and add and add and add until finally that big snowball is it's going to go over that lip and it'll start rolling. So, sure. I mean, look, a very nice lady invited me on her show just because I have I visited with people and just tried to be myself, and I got invited on a show. See, it works.
Imagine that. What a Muppet mad lady she must have been.